There's a beat up old tire. So I don't know if I can catch the car from down here. This is a 69 Sport Satellite. So all the hardware to put the chrome trim on. The hole goes in the middle. Seems there used to be some kind of metal clips where the holes went out here. We're gonna have to close those all up. So I went ahead and for the new hardware we cut all the holes. We had to line it up, put the piece on, and so on. So what we did is we used the existing holes, found the middle spot, and then I also did top and bottom, which you can see up here and down here, and we found the middle. But before we drilled past the rocker, because these cars taper out a little bit, we put the plastic pieces on, put the trim on, held it nice and snug, redrew the lines, and then the middle changed just a wee bit. That way, when we put this nice chrome piece on, it's not under stress, and if it's not under stress, it'll stay on the car better. So the car is getting straighter and straighter. It's getting really close. Got a little bit of work to do there. Some pinholes were there. But anyway, sometimes people get discouraged when they bring a project home and they find holes in weird places. This was one of those cars. This was a rotted out field car as far as I'm concerned. So because I have it up on ramps and jack stands, combined with the fact that I'm full of a head cold and I don't feel like working too much today, I'm going to take you on a trip underneath the car. New brake lines, new shocks, cleaned up A-arms. So this frame rail right here, right to the back, that's new. So he had to replace this frame rail. You can see a few little weld marks that aren't 100% stock, but that's okay. Now everything he did, he'd put things in place, mark it from the top, drill through the top, and then weld through the top into stuff. And I mean, it seemed to be okay. Now these cars are known for, what's it called, the cross member for the torsion bars and whatever. These tend to rot out. This one was pretty good. If we go right here, you can see where a patch had been welded in before the new frame rail went on. But everything is nice and solid. What else do we got here? You can see the new line going through. What's that? There's something. Oh, that's just a clip that looks funny up there. That's my bad. I'll stop moving the light around like an idiot. But look, some of the parts, like this bracket, looks original. And the floors, some of that's original. I thought he replaced all of it. Oh no, here we go. So if you look up here, you can see that cut. The head is good, back was all replaced. So he bought these probably partial pens or something, put those in. And the big deal on this car was this right here. That had to all be brand new, and it goes all the way across the whole car under the back seats. And he called it something, I don't remember what it was. But it goes all the way to the other side. And that was important because obviously these go to it. The spring perch is original. This front part of frame is original. And that's original. It still has some of that crappy undercoating. Let's see, and it looks like as you go up, the rear rail's original. Bear with me, just wheeling in behind the tire. Now if we come under here, you look up at that rubber block right ahead of it, the frame was slugged, and from there back, these rails are brand spanking new. So if you bring the car home and you find a bad rail, I mean, look, if it's a unibody car, you can patch it up, just put back what was there or better, right? All new, new. Everything back here is new. Trunk floor. I believe he had the trunk, maybe the light pot's tail pan. I don't know. He had the back end up, so he was able to slide in the trunk pan from the top. And then he put the rails under. He set everything into place. What else we got? That's all brand new, clearly. There's a little layer of dust on that one, but that's new too. Don't know why there's a hole there in that. Oh no, that's just the rubber's bent up. He used an old rubber there. New floors, new metal. Look at how shiny it is in there where the bumper bolt goes. Gas tank was reconditioned and then he painted it black. The whole axle drive assembly, whatever, new shocks. That's all been cleaned up and painted. Now everything mechanically on this car was serviced. Oh, and check this out. Brand new springs, all repacked for the car. Now on the front, he had a good set of exhaust, which is why they're a little bit brown looking. They were off of his GTX that he restored. So when he put this car together, he had those, and they actually fit on the manifolds that were here. And then he just went with new mufflers and new tailpipes and, you know, the proper chrome tips for this car. So he says, I can't verify that. I don't really care, to be honest. Again, all this stuff, you can tell. This is all brand new stuff. Everything you look at the line even, right? Everything is new. I mean, this is pretty cool. And if I go here, you can see where the frame, the rail was replaced right up to where that rubber butt is, and just ahead of that rubber bump stop, that was welded into the original frame, which on this car is super thick up there. Because I know I was looking at a B-body the other day, and the funny thing was it was all original and absolutely mint, but when you came right down in here, there were pinholes right in the middle of the frame, and it was thin. But this one, that's not an issue. This one is really good. And a few guys told him, instead of using a whole rail, to do it this way. I would have went with the whole rail because I'm really picky, but I guess it's easier to keep the car straight if you don't. You see all them tiny little holes up in there? I drilled those because this has the chrome trim that goes around. And here's the holes down this side of the rocker. I still got to put one in the front fender. There's a couple in that fender, but they're odd. There's that new piece again, the front rail and spring perch. Like, look, they're still, see the blue paint in that spring perch? That was actually the color of this car originally. So, new pan, and then it was, what's this? Little bit of Phelan paint there. New pan here, old pan there, welded together. It looks like there's a joint here of some sort. I don't know what that's supposed to be, but either way. So even though this car was soft and twisty, there was enough original stuff in it that it actually kept together pretty well. So you saw the other three frame rails, and they so this is the one full original frame rail on the front. I mean, it's a little dirty looking, but it's solid, it's nice. But it looks pretty good going up into there. And then, way up there, someone's put a patch in there. But I mean, he's not worried about it, neither am I. It's solid, and I don't think that's going anywhere. So, I think we're good. But check it out, new trans mount, rebuilt transmission, rebuilt 440 Commando engine. All the front suspension and steering is brand new. That's not a bad rotor you're looking at. That's those nice, it's like a dust shield. They're still shiny because, again, everything's new. Yeah, I just spilled a magnetic tray and what have you, but that's all right. And you can see up under the fender where someone put a patch in way up near the top. And that's where we had to repair everything from the top side because it didn't quite match the hood. But I mean, you know, this is all pretty good. Aprons, whatever you call them. Look at all the A-arms and stuff. Like, he really went to town on this thing. Of course, then he got some yellow overspray here somehow. But you know what? These things came out of the factory with overspray all over the place, so who cares? There's that new rail. Oh, looks like there's a new shock perch up there too. And this fender, way back there, there's a little bit of a patch or something. Not sure, but it looks good from the top. We're not even going to worry about this one. And this isn't a SEMA car. This is something the guy's going to drive around. You know, you can look back in there and that's all nice and cleaned up and painted and everything. Bottom of the rocker on this side's nice. Anyway, the whole point of this video, I mean, if I was going to show off, I'd show you a video on that car, because the whole bottom of that car is black and clean, just like the back end that you see. That car looks brand new underneath. But the reason I'm showing you this car, we all buy these project cars. A lot of guys at home doing this. You might have a little experience or none and you're learning or whatever. You're going to bring something home and find out that, oh, the rails are bad. And it's like, hey, the car's going to sit in the backyard and then you're going to sell it to the next guy and so on and so forth. And, you know, eventually nobody fixes it. But there was a lot wrong with this car. And look, this is going to be, I mean, this is going to be a dream car to a lot of people, right? Everything is straight now. It's going to be nice. It's going to be a good driver. Watch the videos that are out there. Look at that. Come on, tell me that ain't beautiful. I mean, I'd run this thing just as it sits. Throw some taillights on it and you're good to go. Wouldn't even bumper or grill it, man. This thing is cool. Excuse me. But I mean, there was a lot wrong with this car. So this was some coat hangers. I split and tied them to the door latch just so I can open. You just push this down and, you know, because I want to paint properly. He had painted around there, so you didn't have to, but you know, you always end up getting a little dry spray or whatever trying to paint around stuff. So I pulled all that off. Excuse me again. Then we went ahead and did a little bit more Bondo work on the back quarter here. Those two heavy spots you see, well, they were, they just didn't seem quite right, where the other side just felt better. So I basically redid those two spots, but everything else you see is simply sanded, with the exception of the front. That's little pinholes and little marks, sand swirls, so we had to clean that up. But the fenders didn't line up with the doors. We cut and realigned everything. Nothing a guy can't do with a welder on low, right? Excuse me. Again, so no matter how bad a car is, it's not impossible. Look, I don't got a gazillion hours in this car, but everything I got to do, we got to do right. And I guess all I want to say is, like, don't get discouraged. The trunk lid is going to be smooth with no little lumps in it. That being said, you see where it joins up there? It sits a little low in the middle. Well, I'm not going to put that much filler across the entire trunk lid. That would be crazy. So we lined up the corners fairly close. If anything, on the far side, it's a wee bit high. But the line goes down with the fender nice. Everything else is nice. I don't know if anyone's going to notice it, right? Now, I could go underneath there and start jacking it up and trying to re-round it. I know with the Camaros and Firebirds, I find the aftermarket trunk lids, I got to rebend them. But this thing had a lot of trauma and a lot of work done to it. It's nice. It fits. The headlight, or sorry, the taillight buckets, all that stuff, everything lines up fairly well. This was a reject off of a much more expensive car. So on this car, it's going to be just fine. Like I say, it's not much, but it's low enough that picky body guys like me will notice it. Sail panels were all lumpy. They're smooth. The top of the fender was built to the top of the door. So was this one. I went by a real expensive GTX build, reshaped all these to kind of match that. The hood now more or less matches the fender and is better than the $100,000 and some GTX that I'm getting my measurements off of. On this side, the hood is just a touch high, which is exactly how it looked on the other car, which again was a really expensive build. None of these planes lined up. They all line up now. This is exactly what the gap should look like. Now on the other side, there was a little extra meat in the fender there, and I don't know what it is, but it is what it is, and it's good enough. The line is nice. I reflooded this a little bit because it was, for this and this to be nice, there was a low here, so I had to kind of, right here, so I had to kind of fill it and go a little wider. I mean, you can see through it. I am picky, but you have to be, and these fenders only adjust so much, and you want the fender to sit, relax, and flow out and be smooth. Now, I'm in Ontario, Canada, so maybe in California, guys talk about, oh, if you have any filler at all, things move in the sun. That don't happen here, so I'm not going to worry about that. And realistically, to metal finish this car where there would be no filler, it would be impossible. So in the sun, you got a couple little waves. If they're minor, hey man, then you need to go buy a different car, because if you're going to put all these aftermarket fenders and stuff on, and they were all wavy when they were shipped. So it is what it is. That is smooth as glass as far as I'm concerned. That is going to be beautiful. Those body lines, this was all Ripley. Everything I did by hand, with blocks. You can watch other videos. Don't get discouraged if your car sucks. You can do it over and over again. You can take your time. Don't get overwhelmed. Look at it this way. So I came out, this car had a bad door. I took it apart, spent a couple days on and off, and basically tore the door apart, put it back together till it fit. It turned out the fender was all screwed up. We reshaped the fender. Came back to the quarters, cut them, made it so that the door gaps were nice, re-welded them. The buckets, did everything we could till they were, well, basically close enough. This side, we had to knock it in some, cut it and move it so that they would work, re-weld it. On the other side, I had to add, or no, this side, I went from, I think, 0 down to not quite a 1/4 inch, and I actually had to weld an extension on and then grind it and shape it till the bucket fit, because it's got to fit around all 4 sides nicely, right? Not just one. And the way they were before, you'd put them on and they were so weird, they'd actually rub the trunk. Another thing we found, this down here had been hit and pushed in, and someone just bondoed it up. So right here, you can't see it quite, almost. You can almost see it. You can see there's a trunk rubber right in there. You put your hand in here between the trunk rubber, like that's how much it was pushed in. So we pulled that back before doing all this work. So then we clean that up. And I mean, this is all hidden, but you still got to have it where it goes. This sail panel was a mess. And it's funny because there's new steel that comes like so and down. And I believe he said he cut it out of a donor car. And down here and across, and somewhere down here close to the trunk it's joined, and then it goes up here. So even that joint is out of a donor. Every so often something leaks out of here and comes down and stains that. So we're going to have to spray a bunch of gook in there and try to dry that out. And it'll be good for a month, and then all of a sudden that happens. But whatever it is, we'll get it out. Or the paint will have to dry quick enough that it comes out, it won't hurt it. But either way. So all that to say, don't get discouraged. There's been a bunch of videos lately. And actually, you know what? I'm going to end this. This is just basically to show you can do a lot of work, and nothing on this car was done in a high-end shop or in an expensive way. Once he had the car together and drivable, he brought it to me just to finish it out. And I made a deal with him that if I did it, we couldn't just throw paint on the car. I had to cut and repair all these things. So he didn't spend, half of a house mortgage on this car. And it's nice, new interior. Now he's got Krager wheels. These are just the old weather-checked crap that came with the car. He's got brand new Kragers, new tires, new interior. I can't say what he spent in total, but it's not crazy money. And it's all things that a guy with a welder, if you can weld at all, you can probably put this car together. So that being said, just wanted to show you, don't get discouraged. The more shit you find, excuse me, bad language there, the more things you find wrong with your project, just go through it one by one, repair it. And that's what this guy did. He knew the one rail was okay, one was bad. He wasn't sure. He priced the rail, and from what he tells me, they're not expensive, so he changed it. Rear rails, the same thing. And you can get a full rail, and then you can get a rail that's not quite, I don't know. But either way, he put rails in it, he put trunk floor in it. I think he said the pan that I showed you underneath, that goes across, that goes over the spring perches and under the back seat and part of the floor, I think he said that was 100 and change. Now after COVID, that's probably like $300. But I mean, I think you also got to be real. Every so often, save up $1,000 and throw it at the car. You're not going to do a project in a weekend. Might take you a couple of years. But if you go buy this and this car's already nice, what's it going to cost you? $50, $60, $70,000 for a nice GTX Roadrunner? You know, you get one that's super high end, they're in the 100,000. I mean, right? So this is a sports satellite. He's got a 440 in it. It's got all the good stuff. But yeah, don't get discouraged. If you keep at it, you can do it. And if you need some help and you got to farm a few things out, make sure you're taking it to the guy who's not expensive, where he's going to cost you your house. But at the same time, you know, you got to have a little trust and a little bit of expectations. And if the guy's doing you solid for cheap, it may not necessarily be the best, right? Like there was definitely a budget on this car, and we decided to go a little higher with that budget. But that being said, we didn't go crazy. This is going to be a really cool car. Anyway, that's it for this video. Cheers.